Welcome to the Madison Miller Podcast. Today is Thursday, April 2nd, 2020. Today I'm going to talk about the latest with the coronavirus and things that have been canceled and some rumors floating out. Masked Singer last night, talk about who got voted off and anything that popped into my mind in terms of the super clues. My latest NFL mock draft, my 2018 NBA redraft, and my top 10 NBA games of the calendar year 2019. All right, I'll start with the coronavirus. The latest thing to come out is that PGA canceled the Open. That comes to no surprise. A lot of their tournaments have been either canceled or postponed. Some of the bigger ones, like the Masters, obviously have been postponed, but some of like the lesser ones, like the Open, have been canceled. This was supposed to be held in July, and it's very interesting now. Opens up questions. What does this mean for the Masters? Do they end up canceling the Masters? Do they put the Masters where the Open was? There are a lot of things to be questioned about in terms of what the cancellation of the Open at Royal St. George's means for the other tournaments that were postponed, like the Masters. It was scheduled for July 16th through the 19th in England. Obviously, yesterday the tennis canceled Wimbledon. Now today was the Open. The PGA Tour has canceled or postponed 9 events with tournaments in late May. And this was obviously the 9th. A decision on the U.S. Open scheduled for June 18th through the 21st in New York is expected by the middle of April. So we'll see for the Open. My gut is that the U.S. Open ends up either getting canceled outright or getting postponed to the end of the summer or even early fall. There's rumors out today that they could very well shorten the college football season. What that would look like. Conference only, and then obviously the playoff and the championship. And then there was a rumor that they could have an actual season with the college football playoff in May, which would be very strange. And I mean super, super strange. That would be to have the college football playoff in the springtime. Like, that would just feel very not right to have the NCAA tournament before the college football playoff, which would mean the college football playoff would be going on, or not the playoff, but the season could potentially be going on at the same time as the college basketball tournament. So that, to me, would be weird. If anything, they'll probably do the 9-game conference season and then the normal college football playoff around New Year's. Another rumor is that the MLB, if it restarts in, let's say, June, that it could extend the regular season into October and have the playoffs start in mid-November and the World Series in December. That would be weird, because obviously they would be up against the NFL and the NBA, or not even the NBA if they decide to start late on Christmas, but that would be going up against the NFL in ratings. My prediction for that is that they do extend the season, but I don't think it goes into December like people are possibly predicting out there. And the NFL draft has a memo that was sent out by the league to coaches and players. That is obviously not surprising at all. It says, in response to a number of clubs' inquiries, the following is intended to provide additional clarity with respect to draft day preparations. The NFL Management Council has been communicated with club council staff to verify the scope and applicability of local and state orders in each jurisdiction. In addition, the NFL's Information Technology Department has been working with club IT and video personnel to review the requested technology infrastructure for potential remote options. Based on these communications, the current draft site scenarios being considered by the NFL are: number one, at the club facility, subject to mandatory health and safety guidelines issued by Dr. Sills, which will include limitations on the number of permitted club personnel at the facility and rigorous cleaning requirements; or two, total remote personal residence with a clear prohibition on any number of club personnel gathering in one residence. The NFL will decide on one or two above based on several factors, most notably guidance from Dr. Sills, the CDC, and the impact of any shelter-in-place or similar executive orders that are imposed in club jurisdictions. The NFL will not mandate the club personnel move their draft day operations to an alternate off-site location. If it is decided that option one is both safe and legally compliant, clubs will be permitted to draft at their own facility. However, a club may still decide to operate its draft from an off-site location rather than from its facility, provided that such activity is permissible by law and compliance with mandatory guidelines issued by Dr. Sills. To be clear, if the decision is made to require all club personnel to conduct draft operations from personal residence in isolation, then no club will be permitted to operate from any club facility or off-site location. So that was the important stuff out there. So should be interesting to see what the league decides to do with its personnel in terms of the draft and where each club will be taking place in terms of where they'll be making their selections and what not. Now I'm going to talk about last night's episode of The Masked Singer. It was the Super 9. They gave out combined group clues when each trio performed in the beginning of the show. Group A's was that 41.5 million combined Instagram followers. So they obviously are all popular people. Group B, all have been interviewed by Oprah Winfrey. And Group C, 7 combined Grammy nominations. So there's a lot of talented people in Group C, and there's a lot of notable people in Group B. So Group A, the first performer was Turtle. Turtle's super clue was superhero and comics. The performer sang Higher Love by Steve Winwood. I still think it's AJ McLean of the Backstreet Boys. I talked about his clues on yesterday's show and how it hints at towards a boy band. And since it was the April Fool's show, they had to provide a hint to the judges in the audience. What are they not known for? And Turtle said that he's not known for one thing. AJ McLean's known for a lot of different things. He's obviously a singer. I believe he's done some acting things as well. So I believe that it's AJ just from his voice alone. Robin Thicke guessed Drew Lachey. Nicole Scherzinger guessed Nick Lachey. Ken Jeong, Brian Luttrell of the Backstreet Boys. And Jenny McCarthy guessed Chris Evans. And by the way, funny part of this episode, they pulled off an April Fool's joke thinking that they pulled a random audience member to pretend to be Snoop Dogg. And all the judges believed it, which was crazy. Kangaroo. The super clue was a doll. So this is somebody that maybe the doll hints at that she's perceived as a doll or that she owns a lot of dolls. Kangaroo really did put off a good performance. She performed Not Ready to Make Nice by Dixie Chicks. Her not hint was never lived in Australia. There's hints about Australia in her first clue package, but she does not live or never lived in Australia. My guess is Ronda Rousey because there's a lot of hints towards boxing and that she does wear boxing gloves. Maybe that is just too obvious of a hint and it could be somebody else. Ronda's done acting before. But she has a really good voice. She's authentic. Jenny McCarthy guest Jordan Sparks and Amber Rose. Nicole Scherzinger guest Leon Rimes. And Robin Thicke guest India Ari. White Tiger. His super clue was basketball. I thought immediately that it was a throw-off clue. And something that White Tiger was not. And he said that he was not somebody that did a lot of things major, but he said he wrote a book. He performed I'm Too Sexy by Right Said Fred. It was an entertaining performance. I thought the basketball was a throw-off until Jenny McCarthy pointed out that this person did a swish. And obviously basketball, you swish the basketball in one of Katy Perry's music videos. And that, of course, was Rob Gronkowski. Ken Jeong guessed J.J. Watt, and Nicole Scherzinger said Joe Manganiello. And then Group B went Kitty. Her super clue was the tree from last season, who was Anna Gasteyer. Is she hinting at something she did with Anna Gasteyer, or does she love Christmas so much, or was in a Christmas movie? She performed a beautiful song, It's All Coming Back to Me by Celine Dion. I thought this was Kitty's best performance of the season so far. Something that she is not dreaming when she got her first role from Robert Redford. And that had a lot of people very surprised. My guess is Kristen Chenoweth, who obviously played Elphaba in Wicked. And Anna Gasteyer was also a part of Wicked. And Chenoweth has a great voice. I also considered Idina Menzel, who also played Elphaba in Wicked. Nicole guessed Nicole Richie. Jenny guessed Vanessa Hudgens. Robin guessed Emma Roberts. Ken Jeong guessed somebody that I suggested a few weeks ago, and that is Avril Lavigne. Banana. His super clue was a mullet. This is strange. I thought Howard Stern, but Howard Stern, as far as I'm concerned, didn't have a mullet, and Banana suggested for his not is that he's not stand-up funny, but he is actually funny, and Howard Stern is stand-up funny as far as I'm concerned. He performed Sweet Home Alabama by Lynyrd Skynyrd. Solid performance. I don't feel strong about this, but my new guess for this is Kid Rock. There's a lot of hints suggesting in the clue packages from the past about Kid Rock. And a couple of his performances with the vocals sounded like Kid Rock, including this performance of Sweet Home Alabama. Ken Jeong and Nicole Scherzinger both guessed Brad Paisley, but I don't think it's Brad. And Robin Thicke, I thought, had a good guess of Billy Ray Cyrus. Jenny McCarthy guessed Bret Michaels. Frog was the last of Group B to perform. His super clue, a knight. He performed Jump by Criss Cross, something that he's not, a trained dancer. My guess for this is the current host of America's Funniest Home Videos and Catch 21, Alfonso Ribeiro. My initial guess for Frog was Kevin Hart, but from listening to the vocals, I am getting vibes of Ribeiro. Ken Jeong guessed Cisco. Robin guessed Amaria. Jenny McCarthy went with Lil Romeo. Group C, Night Angel. Her super clue was a tricycle. She referred to a trio she was in. Is she a triple threat? She performed Rise Up by Andra Day. Good performance. Something that she's not. She's not just a voice, but a mobile. I thought that was weird. My guess for this is Kelly Rowland, currently of Destiny's Child. Robin guessed Tamor Braxton. Jenny said Brandy. Not a bad guess by Jenny. And Ken Jeong guessed Tisha Campbell. Rhino, whose super clue was a slot machine. He performed What's a Man Gotta Do by the Jonas Brothers. Something he's not. Not as tall as you'd think. My guess is Tim Tebow. I'm sticking with it. The vocals and some of the hints from the past clue packages, such as quarters and surfboards. I think it's Tebow. Nicole Scherzinger guessed Ryan Lochte a few weeks ago, and she switched it up to Vince Gill. Robin Thicke said Duff McKagan. Jenny McCarthy with a ridiculous guess of Derek Jeter. I don't see how it's Jeter. Maybe A-Rod, but no way it's Jeter. And the last performer was Astronaut. His super clue was a broken world record, so maybe he broke a world record. He performed Never Gonna Give You Up by Ricky Astley. Very good performance. I thought that was Astronaut's best performance so far of the year. Something that Astronaut has never had traditional voice training. I don't think that helped. And Robin Thicke said the same thing, because there are artists out there that never had traditional voice training. I'm going to go back to the guess I had a few weeks ago of Jesse McCartney. I was getting more vibes of him, and I think that the hint of Only Human was a throw-off to make people think it was a Jonas brother. I could be wrong. It could be Kevin Jonas under the astronaut mask. Jenny McCarthy guessed David Archuleta, the ex-American Idol runner-up. Not a bad guess. He lost to David Cook in 2008. Ken Jeong guessed JC Chazez of NSYNC, not bad. And Nicole Scherzinger said Ryan Tedder of One Republic, which I think was the best guess. I won't be surprised if Nicole's right here. I really think that it could be Ryan Tedder of One Republic. And One Republic is a really good band. Tedder's a good singer. And when he was singing Never Gonna Give You Up, I did kind of get reminded of Counting Stars, now looking back. And obviously Tedder sang that song with his band One Republic. So it could be Tedder. The bottom three, they had a bottom three, so one person from each trio was in the bottom three. Group A, it ended up being White Tiger. Group B, Banana. Group C, Rhino. And after the commercial break, he said Banana is safe. So he kind of went Ryan Seacrest on us a little bit and did an April Fool at the same time. And then he said that the singer that gets to stay in the competition was Rhino. And ultimately, White Tiger got voted off. My final guess, Rob Gronkowski. Robin Thicke and Jenny McCarthy also went with Rob Gronkowski. Nicole Scherzinger went with John Cena. And Ken Jeong went with J.J. Watt. And ultimately, the worst kept secret in sports over the past 2 months has been unveiled. Rob Gronkowski is indeed the White Tiger. I said this after the Super Bowl, and I felt so good about it the last 2 months, and here we are. And Gronk said that a lot of his teammates were asking him, "Are you White Tiger? Are you White Tiger?" So he said he got a lot of that. So the fact that he said that makes you think that this was taped back in February. And obviously, the Super Bowl is in February, and then they knew that this was going to be recorded on April Fool's Day, so you would think that a lot of the Gronk's the White Tiger rumors would pop up over that 2 month span, and of course they did. And then now we wait for next week, which we'll have the SmackDown back, so that's interesting. So it's going to be 4-4. I have no idea how they'll split it up, but they'll go 4-4, and then the bottom two go to the SmackDown, and the loser of the SmackDown gets voted off, and that'll be the next 2 weeks. And then after that, it'll be the top 6. So should be a fun few weeks on The Masked Singer for sure. And if I had to pick a front runner right now, it's Night Angel, but Kitty, I thought was excellent this past week. I thought Kangaroo, Turtle, and Astronaut were all good too. And you know what? I think that is your top 5 right there. So Night Angel, Astronaut, Kitty, Kangaroo, and Turtle, I believe, is your top 5. And I think that Banana and Rhino, assuming they're separate, are the 2 most likely candidates to get unmasked within the next couple of weeks. Alrighty. So now I'm going to do my latest NFL mock draft. It's my 4th version of the mock draft. A few changes along the way, so without further ado, here we go. Alright, number 1, Cincinnati Bengals. Joe Burrow, quarterback, LSU. After what was a breakout season which led to a Heisman Trophy, Burrow emerged as the favorite to go first overall in this upcoming draft. The Bengals want to move on from Andy Dalton and start fresh here at Burrow, whose second-year coach Zach Taylor could help develop into the franchise quarterback the team is looking for. 2, Washington Redskins. Chase Young, defensive end, Ohio State. Young is the best player in this draft, and he falls one spot due to the Bengals' quarterback need. The Redskins need a lot of young talent on both ends of the ball, and Young would have an immediate impact in the league, chasing the likes of Dak Prescott, Carson Wentz, and Daniel Jones twice a season. 3, Detroit Lions. Jeff Okudah, cornerback, Ohio State. This is an interesting spot because this is a spot where someone could trade up for a quarterback and the Lions could get a nice haul back. The Lions are a team in dire need of secondary help after the trading of Darius Slay, and Okudah is the best defensive back in the draft. 4, New York Giants. Isaiah Simmons, linebacker, defensive back, Clemson. Word is out that the Giants love Simmons, and what we learned from the past 2 drafts is that the Giants are not good at pulling off smoke screens. Smokescreen or not, this is a logical pick for Big Blue, who needs somebody like Simmons on their defense who could do pretty much everything on defense. 5, Miami Dolphins. Tua Tagovailoa, quarterback, Alabama. Many people thought at this time 6 months ago we'd be writing this selection, except in the number 1 spot. Tagovailoa drops to 5th, barring the Dolphins or somebody else trading up, obviously due to his hip injury he suffered in November that ended his collegiate career. If he reaches his potential, the Dolphins got a steal here with the guy they've coveted for over a year now. 6, Los Angeles Chargers. Justin Herbert, quarterback, Oregon. With the Phillip Rivers era over, the Chargers look to the draft to draft their quarterback of the future. Herbert is someone that could have declared last season but stayed at school for one more season to try to improve his stock. But I feel that he would have been a first-round pick last season too. 7, Carolina Panthers. Derek Brown, defensive tackle, Auburn. The Panthers once had a great defense, but now it looks like a unit that needs reinforcements. Brown is somebody who's rare for his size, but was always a steady player in college and would be a nice building block in Matt Rule's first draft. 8, Arizona Cardinals. Tristan Wirfs, offensive tackle, Iowa. With the Cardinals acquiring DeAndre Hopkins, they turned their focus on the offensive line where they select Wirfs. He's somebody who could conceivably go as high as 4th due to his his rising stock and could play right away, helping Kyler Murray stay upright. 9, Jacksonville Jaguars. Mekhi Becton, offensive tackle, Louisville. The Jaguars are a wild card here in the first round as they can go in a number of directions. Here I have them taking the steady offensive lineman in Becton, who's arguably has the highest upside among the linemen in the draft. 10, Cleveland Browns. Andrew Thomas, offensive tackle, Georgia. Thomas was someone I had going as high as 4th, but his stock has dropped a little bit. The Browns did add Jake Conklin in free agency to solidify one tackle spot, but if they take Thomas to hold down the other spot, it's a win for Baker Mayfield and the Browns. 11, New York Jets. Henry Ruggs III, wide receiver, Alabama. Ruggs' stock has absolutely rose of late to the point he could be the first receiver off the board in a draft that's loaded with wideouts. Ruggs is the exact type of player Sam Darnold needs, who can run a solid route and is fast and clean. 12, Las Vegas Raiders. Jerry Jeudy, wide receiver, Alabama. John Gruden will be doing backflips if Jeudy falls into his lap. He is a fantastic route runner, and many folks have drawn comparisons to Calvin Johnson due to his tremendous upside. He'd certainly turn into Derek Carr's top option and make guys like Terrell Williams and Hunter Renfrow the second and third options. 13, San Francisco 49ers from the Indianapolis Colts. CeeDee Lamb, wide receiver, Oklahoma. With Emmanuel Sanders departing in free agency, the Niners suddenly have a need at wide receiver. Lamb is somebody with high upside and has great hands, body control, and a solid route runner, which would help Jimmy Garoppolo. 14, Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Jedrick Wills Jr., offensive tackle, Alabama. This pick would be a big win for new quarterback Tom Brady and company. Arguably, their biggest need at the moment is to keep Brady upright, and Wills would certainly help the cause with his pass-blocking ability. 15, Denver Broncos. Javon Kinlaw, defensive lineman, South Carolina. Yes, the Broncos now have Jarrell Casey on that defensive line alongside Von Miller and Bradley Chubb, but why not double down on a strength? Kinlaw is somebody that is super versatile and certainly makes a strength even better. 16, Atlanta Falcons. Lavon Chasen, defensive end, LSU. Edge rush and cornerback are two of the Falcons' biggest needs, and here I have them snagging Chasen, the pair alongside new free agent pickup Dante Fowler. Chasen is somebody that was a sack machine in college and could make an instant impact in the pros. 17, Dallas Cowboys. C.J. Henderson, cornerback, Florida. The Cowboys wouldn't mind Chasen or Henderson, who would both fill team needs left by free agent departures Robert Quinn and Byron Jones. Henderson is somebody that had a solid season in college this past year, and he'll come in and start right away. 18, Miami Dolphins from the Pittsburgh Steelers. Xavier McKinney, safety, Alabama. With their second first-round pick they received in the Minka Fitzpatrick trade, the Dolphins take the fast-rising safety in McKinney. He is someone that can do a lot on the field and would help the Dolphins secondary along with new pickup Byron Jones. 19, Las Vegas Raiders from the Chicago Bears. Kristen Fulton, cornerback, LSU. The Raiders have addressed some of their needs in free agency, but missing out on Byron Jones in free agency has them left hanging. Fulton is somebody that has size and athleticism and somebody that was always patient as a player in college. 20, the Jacksonville Jaguars from the Los Angeles Rams. Trevon Diggs, quarterback, Alabama. The Jaguars secondary needs to be addressed after the trading of Jalen Ramsey, so they used the pick they got in the Ramsey deal from the Rams to somewhat replace him. Diggs is somebody that has shown physicality and imposing length to be a top corner on a team. 21, Philadelphia Eagles. Justin Jefferson, wide receiver, LSU. The two biggest needs for the Eagles this offseason were cornerback and wide receiver. With Darius Slay coming in to fill the need at corner, they look to receiver then take the LSU product, who showed off his ability to make big plays throughout the season. 22, Minnesota Vikings from the Buffalo Bills. T. Higgins, wide receiver, Clemson. With the trading of Stephon Diggs to the Bills, the Vikings replace him with the first-round pick they received in that trade. Higgins is somebody that was one of Trevor Lawrence's top targets at Clemson the last two seasons and certainly would help Kirk Cousins in that offense. 23, New England Patriots. Jordan Love, quarterback, Utah State. With Tom Brady off to the Bucs, the current quarterbacks on the Pats roster are Jarrett Stidham and Brian Hoyer. Now is the time to look to the future. Love is someone that is very raw and has high upside. 24, New Orleans Saints. Patrick Queen, linebacker, LSU. Queen is one of the rapid risers of late in mock drafts. The Saints' biggest need is at the linebacker position, and Queen will certainly help the cause with his speed. 25, Minnesota Vikings. Yetur Gross-Matos, defensive end, Penn State. Gross-Matos' stock has dropped after being projected into the top 15. The Vikings have a pass rush need, assuming they don't bring back Everson Griffin, and Gross-Matos would help. 26, Miami Dolphins from the Houston Texans. Josh Jones, offensive tackle, Houston. The Dolphins take the fast-rising tackle to replace Laremy Tunsil, who was traded away for this draft pick before last season. He has great movement as well as the length and feet to succeed in the league after being a starter for 4 seasons in college. 27, Seattle Seahawks. Austin Jackson, offensive tackle, USC. You can make a case that Jackson could have benefited for returning to school, but he decided to go pro early, which isn't a bad choice necessarily. Jackson is someone that stood out this past season and could come in and start right away for a team that needs to protect Russell Wilson at all costs. 28, the Baltimore Ravens. Kenneth Murray, inside linebacker, Oklahoma. With a stout defensive line in front of him, Murray would be an ideal spot here in Baltimore. The Ravens have yet to address the inside linebacker position in free agency, and he'd be a solid fit here. 29, the Tennessee Titans. A.J. Epenza, defensive end, Iowa. The Titans have a glaring need with their pass rush now with Jarrell Casey traded away to Denver. Epenza is someone that is great on the edge and would have a nice impact. 30, Green Bay Packers. Denzel Mims, wide receiver, Baylor. The Packers don't have any scary threats at wide receiver other than Devontae Adams, and Mims would certainly help them. He would certainly be their second best receiver if he was the choice here. 31, San Francisco 49ers. A.J. Terrell, cornerback, Clemson. The Niners could go in a number of directions here, but I have them improving their secondary by selecting the Clemson product. Terrell is someone who is big and physical and would fit nicely with Richard Sherman in that secondary. 32, Kansas City Chiefs. Zach Baun, linebacker, Wisconsin. Baun is someone that is a super fast riser among many mock boards. The Chiefs do need some help on the defensive side of the ball, and Baun has solid coverage skills, and he can also rush the passer. All right, now we'll do my 2018 NBA redraft. This is interesting. I did one last year, and I really am dying to compare the two because there are so many misses that I thought players would be good and players that I thought would be busts early on, looking like they are solid players. So now, without further ado, here we go. Number 1, Phoenix Suns, Luka Doncic. One of the biggest what-ifs in NBA history as of right now, or recent NBA history, is if the Suns took Doncic instead of Ayton. Ayton is a solid player, but could you imagine Luka Doncic and Devin Booker in that backcourt? Although, let's face it, it would be terrible defensively. Number 2, it's the Sacramento Kings, DeAndre Ayton. So the Kings go with Ayton, who was the number 1 pick in this draft, and he's somebody that would bring a good defensive presence and a very solid all-around presence as well. And he really did improve from year 1 to year 2 as a player. Number 3, Dallas Mavericks, Trae Young. With Luka Doncic off the board, the Mavs go with Young, who really broke out in year 2, becoming an all-star starter for the Eastern Conference. So the Mavs go with Young, and maybe they still do the Porzingis deal. A foundation of Porzingis and Young is nice, but it's not as enticing as Doncic and Porzingis. 4, Memphis Grizzlies, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. This is a redraft, so here the Grizzlies take Gilgeous-Alexander to be a solid wing player / point guard, point forward for them. He really made a year 1 to year 2 jump as well, and Oklahoma City really has to be doing jumping jacks that they landed him in that Paul George deal. So instead of JJJ, they go with Gilgeous-Alexander, and say the next redraft they do John Morant, and that would have been an interesting backcourt of Morant and SGA. Hawks at 5 go with Jaren Jackson Jr., somebody that is a solid big man for the Grizzlies. Someone that got injured, and I think that his injury, say if the season does come back, he'd come back and help the Grizzlies. But if the season didn't get canceled, I think the Grizzlies would have suffered badly from his loss. And Jaren Jackson Jr. and John Collins frontcourt would be an enticing course of direction with Young off the board here. 6, Orlando Magic, Michael Porter Jr. This is somebody that has flashed so much upside when he's been healthy. I still feel that Porter is a little bit overrated because he hasn't been healthy for the majority of his NBA career. But if he does prove to be some all-star stud, then this 2018 draft would look just a little bit deeper. You're going to be seeing, by the way, a lot of role players in the lottery and in the later edge of the first round, and some solid starters as well. 7, Chicago Bulls, Devontae Graham. Graham is someone that had a breakout year 2 for the Charlotte Hornets, becoming their starting point guard. He certainly would have helped Chicago. In this spot, the Bulls took Wendell Carter Jr. But could you imagine Graham with Lauri Markkanen in that offense? Number 8, the Cleveland Cavaliers, Colin Sexton. So no do-over here for Cleveland as they go with their point guard and Sexton. So this is the first pick where there's no do-over because the Suns go with Doncic instead of Ayton. The Kings go with Ayton instead of Bagley. The Mavs go with Trae Young because Doncic was taken first. Grizzlies go with SGA over JJJ. Hawks go with JJJ because Young was picked 3rd. The Magic go with Michael Porter Jr. instead of Mo Bamba. And the Bulls go with Devontae Graham instead of Wendell Carter Jr. So the Cavs take Colin Sexton here. Says they have no do-over with the pick that they got in that trade that sent Kyrie Irving to Boston. 9, New York Knicks, Mitchell Robinson. Okay, this is, talk about irony here because he was their 2nd-round pick that year. Mitch Robinson is somebody that the Knicks stupidly were bringing off the bench who should really be starting for them, although he was playing crunch time for the Knicks before the suspension of the season. So he's really their closing big. I think starting lineups have sort of become a little overrated because obviously James Harden did not start for Oklahoma City, although you could argue he absolutely should have. And he was their 6th man. He was very good in that role and played a lot of crunch time for them. So Mitch Robinson, somebody that so many people did think he was going to be a first-round pick in 2018, but he fell to the 2nd round. The Knicks stole him. In this spot, the Knicks took lottery bust Kevin Knox. But they take, in the redraft, the guy that they took in the 2nd round, Robinson, somebody that has proven to be a solid NBA big man that is still flawed. 10, Phoenix Suns, Marvin Bagley III. So they go with Bagley here instead of Mikal Bridges. So they come out of this with 2 big men, DeAndre Ayton and Marvin Bagley, although they did have at the time some of those draft busts like Dragon Bender and Marquise Chris at the time. So could you imagine? No, I'm sorry. They would have Doncic and Bagley, not Ayton and Bagley. I misread that. My bad. So they have Doncic and Bagley as a foundation pieces to go with Devin Booker. So that would have been very enticing. Although Bagley's been injury prone throughout his career, a lot of people thought he was the best player in the draft and was going to be a stud, but he's really disappointed so far in his brief NBA career. Although I still believe in Bagley, and he has shown some upside when he's been healthy. Number 11, Los Angeles Clippers, Wendell Carter Jr. With SGA off the board, they go with the former Bulls lottery pick with Wendell Carter Jr. Well, he's currently still on the Bulls. Somebody that has shown some capabilities of being a solid big man. He can rebound. He can score in the paint. He'd probably be a bench player for the Clips. 14. Or I'm sorry. Yes, that was their 13th pick. I totally screwed this up. 11th, I have them taking Kevin Huerter, who was a mid-first round pick by the Hawks. Turned out to be a solid player. Start some games, sometimes coming off the bench. He'd be really good on the Clippers. And in the Hornets at 12, take Miles Bridges, so no do-over for Charlotte. And then with these picks, the Clippers took SGA, and with 13, they took Jerome Robinson. 14, Denver Nuggets, Dante DiVincenzo. So with MPJ off the board, the Nuggets go with DiVincenzo, who has been a solid bench player for the Bucks these past couple of years. Has a good three ball, and certainly it helped the Nuggets bench. 15, Washington Wizards, Landry Shamet. Solid backup point guard. Has started a few times for Philly and for the Clippers when need be. But maybe he'd be the starter on Washington with John Wall dealing with his injury problems. And in this spot, they took Trey Brown Jr. 16, Philadelphia 76ers, Jalen Brunson. Obviously, backup guard for the Mavericks. Did start sometimes when Doncic was out. Pretty good player. He certainly would be a nice bench piece for the Sixers. And the occasional start spot when Ben Simmons would be injured. 17, Milwaukee Bucks, Amari Spellman. Obviously, Spellman had a big role in the Warriors this year as they were dealing with all those injuries and really had improved his stock. He certainly would be a good reserve for the Bucks in that sort of role of Ersan Ilyasova. 18, San Antonio Spurs, Bruce Brown Jr., classic Spurs player in my mind. Really did show some flashes with the Pistons this past year and would have been a nice reserve for San Antonio. 19, Hawks, Aaron Holiday. With Trae Young off way earlier and them deciding to go with JJJ early, they take a very solid reserve in Aaron Holiday, but he did have some spot starts, I believe, at the Pacers, but did not really show all that much. He's better off as a reserve. But, hey, at least they had come out of this with a point guard. 20, Minnesota Timberwolves, Josh Okogie. So no do-over here as the Timberwolves snag their reserve here with Okogie. Someone that's really good at spot-up three-point shooting. 21, Utah Jazz, Fernie Simmons. Somebody that the Blazers were really high on coming in the last season, but he's been a little bit of a disappointment. And he certainly would have helped the Jazz and maybe an upgrade over their current backup point guard situation. 22, Chicago Bulls, Mikal Bridges. So the lottery pick drops all the way down to 22. Bench player for the Suns. Probably would have been a bench player for Chicago, too. 23, Indiana Pacers, Rodions Carusis. Someone that started playoff games for the Brooklyn Nets last season. But he really had a huge sophomore slump this past year, which really downgraded his stock. But he certainly would be a solid reserve for the Pacers. 24, Portland Trailblazers, Hamidou Diallo. Somebody that was a solid reserve for the Thunder this season. Could shoot the three ball. 25, the Los Angeles Lakers, Mo Bamba. So they go with the high upside big man who has been a bust so far in the NBA with the Magic. He can block shots, but he has no offensive game. 26, the Philadelphia 76ers, Shake Milton. So no do-over here as the Sixers take their backup point guard with Milton. He had some big games before the suspension of the season for the Sixers. 27, Boston Celtics, Robert Williams. No do-over here as the Celtics take their big guy Williams, who had some spot starts for Boston this past season and showed capabilities. He's better off as a reserve, though. 28, Golden State Warriors, Mo Wagner, the former Michigan Wolverine product. He's shown some flashes in the NBA. I still think that he could get you a double-double off the bench or something. Or a spot start, even. 29, Brooklyn Nets, Sviatoslav Mihaluk, the former Lakers second-round pick, was traded away to Detroit in the deal that netted the Lakers Reggie Bullock. That was not that great of a trade by the Lakers. Bullock's a good shooter, but Mihaluk is somebody that is a young player on a rookie deal, and I rather would have had him than Bullock. But the Lakers didn't even make the playoffs that year, so that was a bad deal by them. But the Nets get themselves a good shooter here with Mihaluk. 30, Atlanta Hawks, Lonnie Walker. Solid point guard who really didn't see playing time with the Spurs because of the depth they have at that position with DeJounte Murray and Derek White. So Walker really didn't see all that much playing time. He certainly would have helped Atlanta as well. So the Hawks do come away with 2 point guards. Walker, I think, is more capable of starting than Aaron Holiday, but from an upside standpoint. But Holiday really has played more, and that's why he's ahead of Lonnie Walker in this redraft. Alrighty, now I'm going to do my top 10 NBA games of 2019. So, without further ado, here we go. So, number 10, Bucks 76ers, March 17th. This was a classic regular season game. Joel Embiid had 40, Giannis had 52 as the Bucks came away with the road victory in Philadelphia. 9, Rockets Heat, February 28th. The Heat were not a good team that season, but they really put up a fight against James Harden and the Rockets, and Harden put up a ridiculous 50-point triple-double. 8th, 76ers Heat, December 28th. Back and forth game this season between two of the Eastern Conference contenders. Jimmy Butler against his former team. Overtime thriller. 1-point win for the Miami Heat. 7th, Rockets Wizards, October 30th. This high-scoring affair, I believe it was 159-158. Rockets win. Bradley Beal had a big game. James Harden had a big game. There's literally no defense in this game. And the over probably hit in the third quarter. 6, Lakers Mavericks, overtime thriller, November 1st. LeBron James led the way for the Lakers. And he had a big three-pointer to force overtime, I believe, at the end of regulation. 5th, Celtics Clippers overtime throw, November 20th, ESPN game. That Lakers Mavs game was ESPN as well. Celtics Clips, I remember it was Mike Breen on the call with Mark Jackson. Great game. Celtics had the lead for a while, but the Clippers came from behind, led by Paul George and Kawhi Leonard, and found the way to win the game in overtime. I believe the final score of this game was 107-104 in what was a defensive battle. 4th, Warriors-Rockets, Game 3, overtime, semifinals in the Western Conference. It was on May 4th. Rockets down 2-0 in the series, badly needed this win, and they pulled it out. I believe that James Harden had a big game-tying 3 in this game, and they went to overtime, and Harden led them to a 126-121 win. 3, Raptors-Warriors, Game 6. Raptors win their first championship in franchise history in a 4-point victory. Golden State had the lead a majority of this game. This is the game Klay Thompson tore his ACL in, but ultimately this game will be remembered for the Raptors getting that elusive NBA title led by Kawhi Leonard. 2nd, Thunder Trailblazers, Game 5, April 23rd. Game-winning, series-winning, buzzer-beater. almost half-court three by Damian Lillard. It was a great game. And certainly is now going to be looked upon and remembered as Paul George and Russell Westbrook's final game in a Thunder uniform. And number one, no doubt about it, 76ers Raptors Game 7, May 12th in the semifinals. Kawhi Leonard with the series-winning, game-winning buzzer beater to send the Raptors to the conference finals en route to their championship. That shot's going to be remembered, the biggest shot in Raptors history, the most memorable shot in Raptors history, and ultimately a what-if for Joel Embiid, Ben Simmons, and the Philadelphia 76ers. That's it for the show today. I'll be back tomorrow recapping the latest news in sports and pop culture with the coronavirus. I'll preview Sunday night's episode of American Idol and the Country at Home concert that's going to be on CBS. Top 10 NHL games of 2019 and my redraft from the NHL in 2018 as well. Hope you guys have a great day, everybody.